conversation and content and words about this topic of self-realization keep appearing, even though there really isn't anything adequate that could ever be really said about this topic. So I'm enjoying this part of my journey, that sense of having to trust more and not knowing what's going to happen. So for example, my last talk in Slovenia, we had absolutely no idea who was going to show up, who was going to be there or not. And it was, in a sense, a real interesting time. There was fear there was a bit of trepidation, but also I'm having to trust something now a bit deeper than I normally do. And that's a problem I suppose I've always had, because I'm that guy who likes to know what's going to happen next and whatnot, and likes to plan his life. And there seems to be this whole idea of trusting coming up, and trusting that by being here in this moment, by being aware of being aware of this awareness, that it's going to be, I suppose, okay. And that's bringing up a lot of thoughts and feelings and emotions, but all positive, all positive. So that's great. It's something I'm enjoying, and I'm deepening in this realization of what I actually am, and that's the beauty of putting down the stories and the ideas as to who you are and where you've come from in your conditioning, because as all of that is cleared, we start seeing more and more of what we are, and the trust and the knowing over time deepen and deepen. As I say a lot, it's that gift that keeps on giving. So it's sometimes about putting down the ideas that we have about this whole topic of self-realization, because any idea or any communication or any theory or concept will always be limited, because it's all in mind, because we're using this mind to communicate and to form ideas. And when we go to that place which is prior to mind, we see that the mind is a very small aspect of this one reality, and we can see through the games and the conditioning. I mean, conditioning is something I've been talking a lot about, and even conditioning, because sometimes there are certain things that are in our conditioning which can never be changed, and yet there are certain things that can be changed. And this was something that was highlighted to me recently when I was in Slovenia, and it's something I've written an article about. But by being intelligent, we can even be free of our conditioning, but also have our conditioning work for us as well. Because sometimes when we hear things about emptying the mind, we feel it's this whole just let everything just drop now and away you go. And that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes it's okay to hold on to certain things, and it's okay to let go of certain things, but by becoming aware of what we are, we can go through that process intelligently. And the beautiful thing about that intelligence is there's a slowing down as we really start to deepen in the awareness of what we actually are. That awareness then increases in its intelligence, so that in any given moment there is only ever this perfection that we have previously seen as an imperfection, something to run away from or something not to accept. So this acceptance of what we are deepens, this openness to whatever is going to happen, becomes more alive, and we are really here. But by being here, that's not in any way the end of it. It just opens up more and more of what we truly are. So how you are, how the communication is, how you appear, there's a constant evolution. And yet what's really interesting, something that I've been thinking about recently, is that it's nothing special, because we all, whether we're consciously aware of it, whether we're seeking or not seeking, are functioning like this. So then the whole wow factor of it becomes less and less and less, as we start seeing that it's really a perfectly ordinary experience. But because of the mystique and the myth and the ideas and everything that's been written about it, and that have been transmitted from teacher to teacher and through culture and through books, we've complicated something which is essentially very, very simple. And yet we've even complicated that as well, because we take literal statements and we imbue them with this supernatural quality, and that in itself becomes a barrier. And it's whether we can, in a sense, put that down and just rest as we actually are, because we would find that this amazing event of realization, this awakening that we're chasing, that we crane forward to hear the next word and want to know what the teacher knows that we don't know, is actually very, very, very ordinary. Which then kills off most conversation or most communication of it, and there's really just a silence. Whatever appears in that silence, whether it is the idea of someone witnessing the silence, or there being no witness or communication, in this silence, everything is occurring. And this silence speaks, and this silence remains silent. This silence is the actual destination, and yet we're always at the destination. We are always, as Rumi said, in the house of lovers, because even though we are traveling, we've never really moved. So that's that beautiful contradiction that the very seeking of this, or the very talking of this, or the very communicating of this offers. That the contradiction is the gift, because we can die at that point of contradiction, because the mind cannot know this. The mind is jammed by these contradictions, and in that moment of stillness, we may see what we truly are, if it's needed, whether it's needed or not, because again, that's almost an irrelevancy as well. So, I've been saying a lot recently at my talks that it's just a guy sitting in a room speaking. And if you can accept that, then that's it, because this is the most important thing in the world that you will ever need to know. And yet, consequently and paradoxically, it's also the most irrelevant thing in the world.